Hi, I'm Michael Palazzolo with the LSU Ag Center, and today I wanted to visit with you about some things that I do to maintain my strawberries and keep them growing happy. Now, one of the things I really like to do is, even growing them in a pot like this, is have pine straw mulch. This has a multitude of purposes. One is it helps keep the watering very efficient. It keeps the water down there in the soil and keeps me from having to water as much, which can be very useful in a terracotta pot that wicks so bad. The other extreme benefit you get from it is that it prevents your fruit from being in contact with the substrate. Now, that greatly reduces disease pressure. If this is direct in contact with what you're growing in, substrate in there, you're going to have a higher incidence of fruit rot than if it's in contact with this pine straw in between there. Ideally, I try to position my plants where the fruit is hanging off, but you can't always do that. And pine straw is a great way to reduce disease pressure in there. Now, another thing you're going to want to do is I occasionally go through my plants and remove old, dead, and disease tissue, especially any that might have leaf spot. Now, I generally have cold varieties that are really prone to leaf spot because I don't think those are good to grow or recommend for homeowner production, but all leaves will eventually do this. So you want to go through and remove this, because if you leave that on the plant, one, it's just not very attractive, and it's a reservoir for disease as well. Now, strawberries are also very heavy feeders, so you're going to need to fertilize them very often. How often depends on what growth stage you're in and what time of year we are, but in general, you can expect to fertilize your strawberry plants about once a month. And I use a lot of different fertilizers. Probably my standby is Triple 13. It's a good, well-balanced fertilizer, and it's a good way to help get the season started. The only thing you have to worry about is sometimes it's a bit high on the nitrogen, and there's times of year where you don't want to hit a ton of nitrogen there because that will push vegetative growth at the expense of fruit growth. At those times, you might want to look for something that's a bit higher on the phosphorus and potassium. Now, another thing I like to alternate is Nursery Special. Even though it can be high on the nitrogen, 12-6-6, it has a lot of micronutrients, which is important for a perennial that I'm growing in a pot all the time. I want to make certain I have those micronutrients. In fact, plants that I've had a while, I even look into a specialty fertilizer called Micromax to add once a year. You can use a slow release fertilizer. Now, warning, sometimes not all slow release fertilizers are true slow release, and they may not last quite as long as what the label says, but you should still be able to get a good 6 to 8 months out of your standard one. But I prefer to do multiple applications of a quicker release for mine. And sometimes you will even get an increased fruit quality with hitting it with calcium nitrate every now and then. Calcium is an important part of cell walls, and it helps make sure that you have firm leaves and firm fruit.